Most businesses that start never make it to seven figures in revenue. It's only about 3 to 5% of businesses that ever get there. That's why we call them elite. But you can't get to 10 million without a leadership team, like a full-blown, the complexity of your business starts to overwhelm the hustle. So you can't hustle your way out of it at that point.
Anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. I knew at some point I had to get out. Well, Brett, thank you very much for being here. Brett Gilliland. It's you, one thing I liked about you is the fact that you speak a lot about how to grow your business in a right way. We've had guests on before that speak about processes, SOPs, and if I hear you speak, I'm like, okay, you are, I think, in the right camp. And what I wanted to have here is to see if we could do, whether it's 45, whether it's an hour, just to do a masterclass on how to grow your business from, obviously, in this case, above seven figures. Let's see how we can get there. But let's start with the first basics. Brett, who are you? What do you do? And, just share with us, please.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I am one of the founders and am currently the CEO of a company called Elite Entrepreneurs. And why elite? Well, we're not full of ourselves, I promise. We serve elite entrepreneurs. So we named it after all of you, right? You're the elite entrepreneurs, not us. But we do have some great experience to share with elite entrepreneurs. And what we mean by elite has to do with some numbers out there. Most businesses that start never make it to seven figures in revenue. Like it's the vast majority never get there. Those who do find themselves in a new place, a new stage of business. And so we call them elite once they hit that seven-figure mark. And over the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, that bottom threshold, for us in the US, that was $1 million in revenue. Now, maybe it's not as impressive to get to $1 million in revenue as it used to be. There's inflationary realities and all the rest. But let's just call it the low seven-figure range, somewhere between 1 and 3 million. It's only about 3 to 5% of businesses that ever get there. So that's why we call them elite. And again, that $1 million mark might be a different threshold today than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago.
No, I think mentally, like in your mind, I think that $1 million mark still is very impressive and still is very important. I remember when we crossed it the first time, I was very happy, and it's it's not like, okay, we now matter or I now matter, but it's impressive. It is because you're also inflation. If we keep it in there as well, I mean, inflation aside, I would say $1 million when I was 10 years old, right? It's not the $1 million as it is right now. So I fully hear you on this, but the perception is the same. Like my dad is still my superhero, no matter whether I'm 10 or 30. $1 million to me is still $1 million. And even if I go to a country where like we have like currency is shit, I still like, oh my God, I got $1 million. But obviously I can level and be okay. It's not $1 million. But coming back to what you said, so growing businesses myself and taking them, I know how hard it was for me to get to 10,000 a year first and foremost. Well, I started at 14, so it's got to be hard, I assume. But growing to 100,000, right, going through 1 million, there's steps to take. However, there's a difference between growing from 10 to 100, 100 to 1 million, but then from 1 million to 10 million. And from everything I've heard, it's a different story. What can you tell us about that step? Like, what's that step? What is so different about it?
Yeah, so we're gonna have your listeners hanging on for just a minute longer because I want to make one more point. I love how you laid it out, Sean. When I was 14, 10,000, 100,000, a million. These are meaningful milestones. We actually insert another milestone in our way of thinking about it. We like the ones and threes of revenue. That every time you triple in your business, there's a new stage you're going towards. And we don't usually reach all the way back to 10,000, which is fine. But think about 30,000 to 100,000, 100,000 to 30,000. Sorry, 300,000, 300,000 to a million, 1 to 3, 3 to 10. Every time you hit one of those ones or threes, you're moving into a new stage. You're tripling what your business is doing. And in that process, you're breaking the current thing, right? It's like the current gear no longer suffices. I'm going to jump around in metaphors a little bit, but
No, I hear exactly what you're saying.
yeah, if you're on a bicycle that has gears, you tap out what's possible in that gear. You can pedal harder, you can pedal faster, but at some point you max out the yield that is available in that gear. And until or unless you shift gears, you're in the next thing, then you just kind of wear yourself out trying to hustle your way to the next point. So there's a lot of hustle that gets you to a million, around a million or so, right? The complexity of your business that's been growing starts to overwhelm the hustle. The complexity overwhelms the hustle. So you can't hustle your way out of it at that point. You actually have to start changing things. And that's the question you asked. Well, what is it that makes it possible for you to go from 1 to 10 million? So before I jump into that, with that additional context, is there anything else you want me to, I don't know, focus on as we move forward?
No, I love this because the one in threes, I didn't think about it that way because I think a lot of people just hit the high notes, like the ones, the 10, the 100, the mil, 10 mil, and then when you look at it, when you started talking about the 1 to 3, and I was like, okay, 100,000 3, that was a significant change in my business. When we grew from 100 to 3, it meant I no longer was a solo owner operator. It meant I was now taking people on. It meant I was now having to think about delegating, about standard operating procedures. I needed to make sure my processes were there. One thing that I feel was missing was acquisition. So maybe I'm hinting towards something that you're going to talk about, but that to me was like the next growth stage there. But I think it's an important thing for a lot of people to realize how different it is when you switch off of the solo owner operator mindset towards working with people. And that step happens before you hit a mill, right? So before you hit 7 figures usually. And that's already a very big milestone.
Yeah, yeah, and I can tell you've been there. By the way you're describing it. Yeah, there was a big change around, from 100,000 to 300,000. Well, even human development, Sean, right? We go from infant. Before we started recording, I shared with you that recently my daughter gave birth to a grandson, right? I'm very excited about that. Well, his name is Henry. So Henry's an infant right now. Henry can't go from infant to teenager overnight. There are stages of development: infant, toddler, preschooler, whatever those stages are. I'm not a human development expert, but I have kids. And
Well, you nailed it though. You nailed
yeah,
it.
I got it, right? Then they go, then preteen, then teenager, adult, whatever, right? Like there are these stages. Just like that, our businesses grow through these stages, and there are key development markers at each stage. And so you talked about acquisition very intuitively because you've lived it. From 100,000 to 300,000, like the key thing is sales. Like I gotta learn how to sell. And it's not the only thing, but that's like a key part of that evolution. From 300,000 to a million, it's consistent lead generation, and it's fulfilling at I won't call it scale yet, but fulfilling at a greater scale, right? It's not hand-to-hand combat anymore. Like we're trying to systematically bring people in and systematically fulfill.
And one thing I really remember, like a real core memory there is, sales was an important thing. I wouldn't say necessarily it was lead gen because I found that a lot of the revenue still came organically. And I found that pushing past 7 figures now meant we need to set up sales systems. And the bigger we grew, the more systems became important. Another thing when it comes to team is I realized, in my opinion, too late, but I realized at some point, like you need people that you can count on, and you need people that can be there right now, but hopefully also for longer. And maybe the same people won't be there. But when I moved from 1 to 3, beyond the fact that and from 3 to 1, sales was important, people were important. The processes we kind of let slide a little bit. I was like, okay, as long as we have people, I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there. And that's another thing, I'll be there. And that's something I learned along the way also, lesser and lesser and lesser. Man, you are You're bringing me back. You're bringing me back. And I think, but these are important stages as well to get you to where you want to be.
That's right. You nailed it. I mean, not everybody's solving lead generation systematically at, before a million, but for us, I guess ideally in the stages of development, in that 300,000 to a million, that's where you're figuring out consistent lead gen. It's harder to grow from 300,000 to a million just all organically. And again, maybe that's getting easier in our day now in 2025, but back when we developed these ideas, it was 300,000 to a million was about, I got to figure out how to get leads in in larger numbers, and I got to figure out how to fulfill consistently a larger
I had
customer.
a lot of luck. I had a lot of luck. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
We growing the business. I don't know why, but it was like when we needed it, it happened.
Mm.
And this also was to everybody out there. If you think you're lucky, your luck's going to run out. You need to work on getting a sales system. You need to work on getting something that works without you to feed the beast that is your company. Because if you don't, if you're going to wait for luck, when it runs out, it's going to hit you so hard. It's going to bite you so hard in the ass. You don't want to have that. So,
If you don't feed that
as
beast,
much as I said it,
yeah,
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 I
I
hear
love the
you.
way you're talking about it, Sean. And yeah, that beast grows. It gets hungrier and hungrier. If you don't feed that beast consistently, now like your sales at a million or 3 million is sufficient to fuel what you've built, right? And if those sales drop off, then really quickly you're in trouble, right? It's a little easier to recover at 100,000 or 300,000. It just gets harder and harder to recover. That fuel is necessary to keep the thing going.
Yeah, and one of the biggest fears I think that are also in, um, and I want to ask you some pressing questions on the 7 to 8. But one of the fears I had when I, in the 1 to 3 and 3 to 1 was from 100,000, 300,000. My biggest fear was, am I going to be able to provide for the people that I gave a contract? That's a big fear. Like, and that's for a lot of people. Your first hire, it's it's worrisome. It's like, can I deliver on this? Because now I'm going to have to. It's not just one person. Right? It could be a family. It could be every person is an ecosystem. I've always learned creating a job is creating an ecosystem because it's not just one person. You give an opportunity and you help out. No, it's a lot. There's a lot of things that cascade from there. So I always appreciated creating jobs. When I went from 3 to like the first 7 figures to a million, what I realized there is it went. I still had that pressure, but I think also along the route, you started understanding how to grow your business and what levers to pull, and then you start being a little bit more comfortable. But man, I'm going to be honest. Like well, not every day, but every month, there's a point where I reflect. It's like, I'm happy that we can do this, and I think that's also something where a lot of entrepreneurs mentally have a growth roadblock as well. It's like, do I want to get more because there's people depending on me? I can hire 5 people today, but can I feed them tomorrow? It's a very important thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's a very weighty matter, right? That can be heavy to carry that. Uh, as you were talking, Sean, I was thinking about something that typically has to happen around a million. The more aware entrepreneurs figure this out sooner, but and this isn't a knock on people who don't figure it out, but around a million, there's this really interesting, delicate separation procedure that has to happen between the entrepreneur and the business, right? To that point, they're like inextricably linked. They're so interconnected. It's almost like Siamese twins. And we have this delicate operation to say, no, no, the business deserves to have life independent of the business owner. And the business owner deserves to have life and not carry that full weight of the business all the time. And so we have to do something there to give the business legitimacy, almost like to give the business birth on its own. And what we help people do in early 7 figures is give the business its own identity. So it's purpose, its values, it's what is the mission of that business. And so we're trying to separate that from the entrepreneur, and not because we don't care about the entrepreneur or that the entrepreneur is not needed. No, entrepreneurs, fire, passion, energy, knowledge, all that's still valuable. But we want to elevate that business owner from being in the machine or one with the machine to now starting to lead and organize work and give other people things that they used to do. And so the business, the culture of that business needs to be formed intentionally or it will just happen. And if you form it intentionally, we all have this shared identity around purpose and values. We're purpose built, we're values based. This is who we are. And it's based, and that's the company identity versus the entrepreneur's value system, their identity. That gets to be separate. It gets to be aligned, hopefully still aligned, but separate. So anyway, I probably talked too much there. I'd love to hear your experience with that separation of identity.
Anxiety. Those are the three things that come to mind. It's just that I knew at some point I had to get out, right? And there's this matter of saying where it's working in your business and working on your business, right? And I think for every person that's growing past seven figures or hitting seven figures, you should be focusing on working at the very least 80% on your business and 20% in your business. You'll still be needed because the business can't really operate without you, I believe. And I truly also believe that the next step you need to be fully able to step out completely because the full process with the client at eight figures needs to be working without the founder essentially, or even a C-level person. The cocoon, the account exec, the account manager, account exec, the team, they need to be able to handle things on their own, and you're going to need a lot different things than a founder can bring at that point. And I look forward to hearing what those things are. But to me, anxiety. The moment I had to let go of my baby, you just had to grab some. But the moment I had to let go of my baby, I was like, no, I don't want to. And you need to have the right people. I found some great people along the way that I've mentored and coached, and some of them can almost read my mind. That's the type of people you need if you want to grow and if you want to detach. Because I really believe in my heart of hearts, in my core of core, if you don't trust somebody to lead your business or to lead problems, because anybody can lead happiness, right? But leading when the problems are there, leading when there's negativity, if you don't trust the person then and there, you're not going to be ready to grow. That's the thing I learned. I think the most key thing I learned.
Yeah. You're saying all the things, the real things that happen, Sean, and it can bring that feeling of anxiety. You said anxiety. I have a good friend who's really shaped the way that I view entrepreneurship and what it looks like to be a successful entrepreneur. His name is Clayt Mask. He's a fantastic human being, but he says entrepreneurship is an exercise in relinquishing control. Like at every stage, it's an exercise in relinquishing control. Like what's that next level of control I got to let go of? And you've heard people talk about, are you doing $10 an hour work, $100, or you name the currency, but you had 10 an hour, 100 an hour, 1,000 an hour. Well, you have to shed those lower value responsibilities or those lower cost responsibilities. You have to shed them, or you can't keep growing. Your business, I'm a firm believer that your business cannot outgrow you as a leader. So we have to keep growing ourselves if we want our businesses to grow. And we have to let go of things that we once held very close. So that relinquishing control is a big deal in that 1 to 10 million journey for sure.
I hear you. I'm thinking like when you say on being an entrepreneur is a journey of relinquishing control. I'm like, okay, I hear you. And it again, to me, anxiety comes up. It's like, okay, but do I really want to? Because at the end of the day, I'm married to my job. That's it. Right? Also married to that's it. So it's and the more you press me, the more I'm like, I kind of want to. No. I want to hold on to it even more. But I realize it is important. And I also like what you said when it's the entrepreneur, like the business can't outgrow the entrepreneur. I mean, if it hits an IPO, you could say potentially at some point, right? It could, but in the numbers that we're talking about, it's going to be tied to the entrepreneur essentially. He's going to still be a captain, still going to lead the ship and steer the ship and where it
Yeah,
needs to go.
I spend all my time in this 1 to 10 million range, right? And it's absolutely true in this range. Your business cannot outgrow the entrepreneur. If you only know how to build a $4 million business, that's what it's going to be capped at. Like that's it. You're done. If you learn, if you grow, if you stretch yourself to learn how to build a $10 million business, then that's how far you can go. It's very closely linked to what the leader can do.
So you're saying it when you say what the leader can do, it's also how open are you as a person to receive feedback, to also implement this feedback, and to relinquish control, essentially, right? Because it comes down to accepting those fears that you have, but still making the tough decision of saying, hey, you know what? This is better for the business. It now needs to stand on its own 2 feet, obviously next to each other, but still tied to each other. But that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying, Sean. I didn't mean to give the impression that, it's based on how much you can do in the business. I didn't mean that. I mean, how much you can do as a leader. Can you build the systems? Can you hire the people? Can you organize the work and delegate, give clear ownership to people that they can be accountable to? Like there, there are leadership system things that you have to be able to do if you want to grow to those levels.
So I wake up. It's a Monday. I own a 7-figure business, early 7 figures. And I think, you know what? I want to go to 8. I'd like to hit 10 mil at the very least. How fast can I get there? And what are the levers? What are the levers I need to pull? Like, what are the things I definitely need to implement? And how fast?
Yeah, it's a great question. Um, I would say right off before I dive into the how, I would say the speed depends partly on market opportunity. There's some external realities. If the demand's not there, you're not going to just go that fast. But if the market will support it and you're willing to go through the change, the turbulence, you can go pretty fast, right? Like we've all heard of stories of companies that have gone really fast. But I'm not going to talk about those unicorn or those exceptional rocket ship types of things. I'm going to talk about like normal stuff here. So it's been my experience, companies at early 7 figures can double or triple in 18 to 24 months if they consistently do the things that I'm talking about. So I've seen it. I've seen people go from 1 to 3 in 18 to 24 months as several times. So like I know that's possible. And so, the more common thing would be in 2 to 3 years that they're tripling. But like if people are really looking at aggressively growing, I think they can double and triple in 18 to 24 months. So what does that mean? To go from 1 to 10, I think you're looking at, 3 to 5 years if you are really if you're really consistent. And I'm a Jim Collins fan. I don't know if you've. I mean, his stuff is getting older and older. So am I. It turns out. But back in the day, Built to Last and Good to Great. I mean, there were a lot of foundational things that I learned from those books that I've carried with me and I implement into my coaching and how I teach people. So why do I bring that up? Well, he talks about the the flywheel effect, and he also talks about a 20-mile march idea. And so it's the consistent execution, it's the consistent delivery, it's the consistent momentum building that gets you there, not the spikes. So you can spike, but then there might be something coming back down, like we talked about earlier. Like you could have a great revenue year, but if you haven't really built the sustainable revenue machine, you're in for a wake up call, right? So I doing it consistently, methodically might be the wrong term. I'm not talking about slow, but just doing it the right way. You can double or triple in 18 to 24 months. And if you do that twice, you're from 1 to 10.
I think when you're speaking to entrepreneurs, I mean, usually we are tied into a stereotype of visionaire of, we want to go, we want to move, we want to be fast. I've noticed that entrepreneurs mostly are just chaotic people. and they can't get their head on straight if it wasn't for the people that work with them. And one of them is in front of you right now. I mean, as much as I like to say, listen, I'm the most controlled and amazing person, I think I'm the most difficult person to manage within the company. And I'm honest about it to my team as well. And they tell me. So, because I'm the person that thinks, hey, I want to get there and I want to get there fast. I want to get there tomorrow. I'm also the same person that's immediately let down if I don't get there within a month, because I don't have the patience I might have the perseverance, but I don't have the patience to, for this. I don't want to have the sad moments. So when you speak about peaks and, consistency, one of the very hard lessons I had to learn is not to chase those peaks, because those peaks give you an immense high. And you think, therefore, I can do anything. And then suddenly sad reality hits. It's like, okay, well, that's not every day. It's like there's just an amazing Monday where we close an amazing contract, but tomorrow there's nothing. And the next month there's nothing. When you get consistency, what I've learned in my journey is getting to a point where if you close 2 clients every month, obviously depending on the size, whatever you need to close, whether it's 10 or whether it's 2 or which you can handle. If you close consistently, there's one thing you create, and that's confidence. It's confidence in your product. It's confidence in your product market fit. It's confidence in your direction. It's confidence in your team. And it's confidence in the fact that you can handle everything. I don't know how many times I said confidence, but confidence.
Yeah.
That's the... So
Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry, Sean, to interrupt. I actually want to grab this moment because you talked about the chaos that some of us entrepreneurs can create, right? And business naturally creates or breeds chaos and confusion. It just naturally does that. And it's our job. The best businesses are led by business owners who figure out how to turn chaos and confusion into clarity and confidence. So I just really wanted to hit that point because entrepreneurs can be a little chaotic, but the best ones figure out how to turn some of their amazing energy, their chaotic energy, into clarity and confidence for everyone, not just for them. And those are the businesses that consistently win.
Yeah, which comes back to what you said before, right? How open are you to change also yourself? How open are you to learn new things and to pick up new ropes, essentially, to lead the company and to pull it forward? And if you're stuck in, I want to chase a high, or I'm not happy because I'm only getting 1 client and I was promised 50. No, every sales trajectory is going to take time. When we started our sales process, we didn't hear anything in the first 3 months. I was like, no, what are we doing? And then we started seeing a glimmer of hope. And, and then there was a meeting and another meeting. And then there was a potential, an opportunity, a pitch. And it started growing. And it took us about 4 to 6 months before we actually landed first clients and we started doing our own sales. But since then, there's a more consistent flywheel, as you said, right? You have to make sure it keeps moving. And when you have that momentum, when things are going ahead at a certain pace, there's no need to accelerate it unless you feel like, hey, we're getting a capital injection, we're really raising money to do it, right? And obviously, don't do it if you don't have the processes and the team and you need to be able to handle accelerated growth. But man, I sometimes I long for the days of just soloing, just so simple and so easy. And then I realized, like, I don't like doing those things anymore. I like being a leader, and I like being where I am, where I'm at right now. But there's a lot of lessons you learn along the way, and it's so fun to hear them from you. And you talked about those books, and I always say, like, people are still people. 100 years ago, we were people. 200 years ago, there's books from Freud, there's books from other
Yes, true.
psychologists.
Enduring principles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
but we don't necessarily seek them out when it's for ourselves, whether it's personal. I mean, I think every person is obliged to work on themselves from a therapeutic standpoint, and whether it's trauma, whether it's overcoming things. And the same thing for entrepreneurs, right? There's nothing wrong with a coach. There's nothing wrong with a therapist. There's nothing wrong with somebody helping you along the way. And that needs to be normalized, I think. A lot of people think they need to do it on their own. And I was one of them. I really was one of them. I thought I never needed somebody. And still to this day, sometimes I think I don't need somebody. That's stubbornness, maybe arrogance also a little bit. But sometimes it's also, I'm just, maybe afraid.
Well, yeah, I don't know. This phrase doesn't get used a lot, but self-reliance, right? It's like entrepreneurs are the classic, like, I figure things out. I can do it, right? That's the whole beauty of entrepreneurship is like, I can do it. I can create something that wasn't there. I can solve this problem. And we are do-it-yourselfers a lot of times, right? Like until last year, I was still doing all of my yard work. I live on an acre. I don't even know if that means anything in Europe. Okay, an acre, and it's not like a huge lot, but there's mature trees and all these bushes. And my wife thinks we live in the desert, but she thinks our land should look like the Garden of Eden. So we just keep planting things, right? And so it's just work, 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 work. And I finally like, you know what? I don't need to do that. But I have this self-reliant, like I can take care of myself. I could do it myself mentality. And we have to let that go too. Like, oh, I want to use money to buy back time. Now I pay somebody to do my yard work after all these years. Took forever, but now I do. Like, oh, I have time to do something else. I can generate more revenue if I want, or I can enjoy some family time. So anyway, the point is we have to let go. We have to realize that it's we're holding the business back. And if we go chasing endorphin hits, right? You talked about how exciting it is to get that contract. We have to let other people do those things if we want to get to a new level in our business. Yeah.
You you make me almost feel ashamed when you say endorphin hits because it's absolutely true. But yeah, you're right. Okay, so we spoke about the timeline, right? It's unrealistic to expect you can get there in 6 months or a year. I mean, it could happen, but realistically, you want to do this in a consistent way. That means you need some time to first ramp up. Let's say that's your first 6 months. Then you actually start hitting the ground and seeing results. That's your next 12 months. And in that time, there is a potential that you can double, potentially triple, but usually expect it to last at least 2 years to 3 years if you want to make sure you get there in a healthy way, right? That's number one. We spoke about the fact that entrepreneurs are maybe their biggest obstacle and they need to unravel themselves and fix the puzzle that's in there. And this is where I think people like you come in extremely useful. When we know the timeline, we know the entrepreneur is the biggest obstacle. Let's look at the company. What are things that we have to do inside of the company that we might not be aware of that we have to do?
Yeah. Great. And we've already touched on some of these things as we've talked, but let's frame it this way. Let's go back to what you said several minutes ago, Sean. You talked about I have to be a business owner who spends more time working on the business and not just in it. Those phrases, everybody throws out those phrases. I got to spend more time working on the business, not just in it. And it's absolutely true, but not everybody really knows what it looks like to work on the business. They're like, okay, I'm going to work on the business. I'm going to spend 2 hours every Friday morning. I'm going to start working on my business. So you
Well,
got to start somewhere.
I love you already. I'm gonna tell it. I'm gonna say to the world, I love you, Brett. I mean, listen, the stuff you say, bro, it's like it hits home so hard. So come on, let's go.
Okay, well, yeah, I've spent a long time in this. I've worked with I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of seven-figure business owners, and this is what it is, right? So anyway, working on the business. I'm going to start working on my business 2 hours on Friday mornings. Okay, great. We all need to start somewhere. That's a great start. And so we get there. I blocked out time in my calendar. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work on my business. But we don't actually know what that looks like. So then we go, well, I have all these things I've been meaning to get to. Like I need to catch up on these projects, or I'm going to clean out my email. And so what we do is sort of like monthly or weekly maintenance on working in the business stuff. Like it's really working in the business, but we feel good because we're like getting our head above water a little bit instead of drowning. Like, okay, I worked on my business so that I could survive. And that's all, all we're doing is feeling better about our working in the business stuff. And that's not really moving the business forward. That's allowing us to get through the next week. So I want to honor the fact that there are business owners right now, entrepreneurs who want to grow. Like, I'm going to work on my business, and they don't always know what to do. So we're making a distinction between the getting and serving of clients, the day-to-day running of the business, even the administrative stuff that you have to make time for once in a while. That's all working in the business. That's the day-to-day operational excellence, and we have to do it. But over time, we as the business owner want to do less and less of that. So what does it really look like to work on the business? To me, the distinction is strategic progress, future orientation. How do I build this thing so that tomorrow's machine produces more than today's machine? That's working on the business. And it's things like, well, first we got to have clarity. Setting the vision is where I start. Again, I talked about Jim Collins. He says the number one responsibility of every leader is to set the vision. Set the vision. Well, what does that mean? Well, everybody's heard phrases like vision and mission and values, but most of us do that work sort of in an obligatory way, like out of obligation, like I'm supposed to do that. So here's our vision, here's our mission, here's our values. And I'm here. I don't know how I could say this more plainly, more clearly, more emphatically. If you don't take your responsibility of setting the vision seriously, your business won't ever quite realize its full potential. There's a real thing there. It's not just a made up thing that some business school people said you got to have vision. It's real, and most of us don't figure out how to unlock the power of it. So if you're willing, I'd love to just sit in this idea of setting the vision for a minute because it gets skipped over a lot. It's so common. The language is so common, but the actual work is not well understood.
I think again, I'm gonna say yes and amen to what you're saying right now, because to me, like, setting a vision feels like, okay, the first question you ask is, what am I doing this for? This is personal experience. What am I doing this for? Because it ain't going to change anything tomorrow. That's it, right? It's a vision. But to me, and a vision means one thing only. It's accountability. That's the only thing it meant to me. That when I hear you say vision, and I want to have you dive into this, but that's the word that you wake up with me. It's accountability.
Mm. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So I'm going to use a Simon Sinek quote that I love because I think it gets right to the heart of why setting a vision matters. Okay. It might sound disconnected at first, but just go with me. He says, people who are invested financially want a return. People who invest emotionally want to contribute. Okay. Hear that difference. There's a transactional thing that happens in business. And believe me, I love capitalism. I love profit. I love, there's a financial thing we're doing here. But if it's all at the financial or the transactional level, you'll only get mercenary behavior from your people. You'll get transactional responses from them. If you learn how to unlock the power of vision setting, I'm gonna define that further as getting clear on your purpose, the why, the values, how we operate with one another, what matters to us, and the mission, as in the very specific destination that we're pursuing right now. Not some open-ended thing, but a what by when. Usually a 3-year time frame. Our mission over the next 3 years is to do this. That combination of purpose, values, mission is setting the vision. And it fuels it provides the energy to the individuals and collectively to the team for this whole endeavor beyond the transactional. So if you treat people transactionally, if you view all of this and you lead in a way that's like, I'm looking for people who are invested financially, they want a return. And as soon as you treat people that way, whether they're employees, partners, investors, by definition, they want a return. That's what they're doing. But your team doesn't have to be operating at that level. They can operate from a place of, we are passionately pursuing this purpose together. This is why we gather Monday through Friday. This is, this is not a religious setting, but here's why we come to this church every single day, every single week, right? We have a cause that we're about. And when you unlock that level of passion and commitment and energy, it changes the game completely. And most entrepreneurs who hear this won't catch what I'm saying. They'll say, "Yeah, that's all fluff. It's about making money. We're here to serve customers and make money." Yeah, we're all here to serve customers and make money. But what? But why? Any business can do that, and we could do any number of businesses to get customers and make money. But why are we doing what we're doing? Why does it matter to us collectively? And when you figure that out, when you become a purpose-built company, it it changes the level of engagement. It changes what's possible in people's minds, and together we can do a lot more. So anyway, I get a little passionate about that, but I've seen candle makers and service providers and marketing companies and software companies. I've seen them unlock the power of purpose and values in their business and just change everything for them. And so that's why I'm insistent that people actually pay attention to this idea. It's not worth it to just check it off and like set it aside. And yeah, we did that work once. I'm talking about living it every single day where our team member our team members memorize the purpose and the values. We talk about it consistently. We set the vision once to co-create it, but then we set the vision continually in our leadership. Like it never stops being a thing. So I'll stop blabbing, but that's one of the key things that has to happen around seven figures that may not have happened sooner than that, but it is essential for where you're trying to go.
Can we say in a way that having that purpose, those values, that mission statement, can we say that it's a way of also bringing, as the entrepreneur, as the founder, bringing the people that are close to you in the business on the same journey with you? Because when you're a solo operator, you decide, and whatever is in your brain is what's going to happen, right? And like I said, I have some people in my team that sometimes I believe they can read my mind. It's very simple, and I think this is the thing that I'm going towards. It's, if you're working with people that are transactional, they will care about what's happening in front of them, but not what's next to them, right? This again comes to a situation where you could say, hey, you might have a role and a cocoon that you need to operate in, but we're working in a company, so sometimes you're going to have to step outside of your cocoon. Well, if it's just transactional, like, hey, I need to hit my quota, my sales quota, I mean, call, then you're not going to give a crap about anything else, essentially. And if you nurture an operation like this, it's going to be an operation like this you're going to get. If you nurture an operation where we focus on the goal together, you're going to get an exchange of thoughts. You're going to get a connected group. I was going to say like a hive mind, essentially, that's going to work towards a singular goal. And that goal has been announced, it has been discussed, and it's not being hidden under a rug to be like, oh yeah, we, like you just said, like we did this once and that's it. No, you speak about it. And this comes to me, that's why I said like accountability is the word that comes to mind, because I feel like you need to hold yourself accountable. My team needs to hold me accountable to the vision that we have. If I'm like, oh my God, I saw this cool thing. That's no, bro, we said we would do this, right? Stay on the lane, stay on the path, focus, don't get distracted, stay on the path and really hone in. That's what I'm hearing. I feel like your underlying, like, I feel like a lot of people always get disconnected when we talk about vision, mission, and purpose, because sometimes it feels like blah blah blah. I'm going to be honest, right? It's the way. But if you kind of say it like in the most simplest ways, it's would you like your team members, your management team, to be on board with where you want to take the company? And do you want them to hold each other accountable and work towards that goal together? If the answer is yes, you're going to need something that you can share, right?
You have to spark a flame, a little fire inside of people through the process of inviting them in to co-create this with you. If you think you go up to the top of the mountain by yourself and you bring back the answers and say, "Here's what we're doing," that works in some, in the Bible, apparently
It
that works.
worked once, yeah.
Yeah, but that's not how you. But then, I mean, truthfully, the children of Israel didn't actually follow along very well with that plan, right? It's like when somebody else brings the answers, that they don't own those answers, and so we have to bring them into the process. When we do, I keep using the word unlock. We get to a next level of passion, a next level of contribution, and a next level of care from these people that it's no longer about dollars per hour. And we have to meet dollars per hour needs. People have to be able to make a living. But then at some point, if you're not paying enough and your neighbor's paying a little bit more and it's all transactional, why wouldn't they just hop over there? Well, because, they like me. We have a relationship and they're comfortable here. That's true. That holds people in place to some extent. But if you have a higher level purpose, a thing that we share as a common cause that I helped to create as a team member, now like this is part of my baby too. You talked about not wanting to let go of your baby. Invite them to be one of the parents, and
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 yeah,
and
I
they
hear
don't want to
you.
let go of it. Yeah, yeah.
I hear you. Yeah. It's
Anyway, I could talk about that forever. There's other keys that I want to get to, and I only have about 10 minutes left for you to like extract as much as you want. But setting the vision is your number one responsibility. And if you let this be the thing that is just another idea, blah, 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 you will miss out. So I'm just going to put that out there.
the result is going to be how you treat it.
Yes. Yep. And your best relationships in life, your best successes in life came because of very intentional effort, nurturing of something over time. Like this, we're giving life to something. This helps to give life to an entity that's beyond you. Okay. So that's setting the vision. That is working on the business, by the way. You hire lead and fire to it, right? Once it's there, you've co-created it with that core team that's like, they bleed the colors of my brand. They've been part of this thing. We put this together. We own it. We're excited about it. We only bring people in who see this as valuable as we do, right? Hire, lead, and fire to it. That's part of this company building process. You build a company one hire at a time is a framing that I hope that people think about.
Definitely in the building phase, 100%, because that's the keyword, building.
Yes, you build a company one hire at a time. You can't build it haphazardly. We got to have intention around it. So I love the practice of a future org chart. That's another working on the business activity. At mission completion, 3 years from now, what will my company need to look like for us to be doing that level of business? If I intend to go from 1 to 3 or 3 to 10 over the next 3 years, what does the team look like at mission completion? Oh, well, I'm going to need this kind of team. Oh, well, you don't have that today. So what's the hiring plan to get us from where we are to there? And how do I do it in a way that's affordable, right? So I can't just go out and hire them all tomorrow unless I go raise a bunch of capital. So what's the affordability on that? What's the governing, like, how do I choose? Can I afford to hire now? And you should use metrics like revenue per employee to tell you, hey, am I at a place now where
Can
I can
you or
afford
can
to
you
the next?
not? Yeah.
Yeah, but you should know what that next key hire should be, and you should know where you're going with an org chart. So there's some future org chart work that you should do. That's working on your business. Um, but anyway, vision setting, and then you need a planning and execution rhythm to turn that into reality. So you hear people talk about annual planning, quarterly planning. Most people don't know how to do that effectively. We need to come out of that with clear priorities for the period that are aligned with that destination. We said we're going there, our mission, and we have these mission goals that define some parameters of what winning looks like at that mission. So we need an annual and quarterly planning, a strategic planning and execution process to work on the business. So working in the business, daily huddles, weekly meetings, right? That's the KPIs. That's the get sales, fulfill customer commitments. Working on the business is, how do we gain new muscle? How do we build new capability? That's priority setting, priority building kind of work that is different than the current machine. It's reinventing ourselves while we're delivering the current machine. So you got to have a meeting rhythm that gives enough time to the day-to-day operational excellence and creates enough space for working on the business collectively. It's not just an individual thing that I do as the business owner and I go think, and now the business is better. No, we organize around work that is going to move the business forward to a place of higher levels of operation, excuse me, higher levels of performance from the machine. So we're running the current machine, we're building the future machine, and we have to have meeting rhythms to make sure we're spending adequate time on both of those things.
Brett, it's it's a masterclass. Thank you very much. That's what I want to say. I mean, I love the insights. I you struck so many little, like, whether you call it nerves or not. Well, I think that's the wrong saying in English, but you man, I feel like you read me like a book, very simple, and you spotted the pains I've gone through. Some of them I still have. Um, it's been a wonderful few minutes with you. I would love it. I mean, I could speak another hour with you. That's it. It's that simple. I'd love
We
to
could
again.
talk about this for a long time, couldn't we?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think we're gonna stop.
yeah, yeah.
It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you honoring the time commitment that I have to get to something else. But let me say one more thing about getting to 10 million. And we've already alluded to it. You can't do it on your own, but the the one leader and lots of helpers model can only take you so far. To get from 1 to 3 million, you might be able to get to 3 million without a really well-established leadership team, but you can't get to 10 million without a leadership team, like a full-blown, I have a leadership team. And you've got to decide what order to build that out. Like if you're really strong in customer or revenue acquisition, maybe you hire your first key executive on the fulfillment side. If you're really good at you're a technician or you're an artisan and you're good at your craft on the fulfillment side, maybe you need a revenue leader to complement that, right? But you have to start building out. Traditionally, it's like a functional leadership team. If you don't see that in your future, like, man, that sounds too painful, I don't want to do all that, then just resign yourself to the fact that you're probably not going to do 10 million, because unless you're in like, real estate where the price tag's really high, right? You can get 10 million in sales with a few people. If you're in commercial real estate, that's different. But I'm talking about everyday service-based businesses. I work a lot with those service-based businesses, or even software companies. Like software companies are high leverage companies, but you still have to have people as you scale that business to service those clients. And anyway, it takes a team, and you got to build out the right leadership structure to get there. So I couldn't not say that before we wrapped up, Sean.
No, I hear you, and I kind of want to say you need to find a yin to your yang, but you need to also find out what you have. What are your strong? I recently did another exercise to refresh myself and to get a balance check, essentially, to find out, okay, what are the strengths I have, but also what are the ones I need to focus on. And one thing, for example, to me was, hey, I'm a great problem solver, but I need to focus on solving fewer problems, but bigger ones, instead of a lot of them that are smaller. Brett, it's been a pleasure to have you. Um, where can people find you? Anything you want to shout out or call out?
Thank you, Sean. Again, our company is called Elite Entrepreneurs. Anybody knows who's ever bought a domain that putting entrepreneurs in a domain is a bad idea. So we we call our website Grow with Elite, growwithelite.com. And right now we have something called the $10 million blueprint. If you're at early seven figures and you're like, what do I need to do to get to 10 million? We have a process to help you get your personalized $10 million blueprint. We'd love to help you get your path to 10 million. So come to growwithelite.com, sign up for the $10 million blueprint, and we'll help you lay out the path.
I mean, I think you've proven your worth here already. And I encourage everybody to go growwithelite.com. speak to Brett Gilliland and get your blueprint. Thank you very much, Brett. We'll put a link in the description, make sure everybody can find it. So it's easy to find and easy to get you also. Thank you very much for today.